Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. I'll carry the baby for you. I threw it into the middle of dinner like a grenade. My sister froze with her fork halfway up. My boyfriend's hand stopped over his glass. Even the TV in the other room felt too loud. I'm Emma, I'm 26, and I meant it. Or at least I thought I did in that second. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted out. Everyone stared at me like I had grown another head. I told myself this was what good sisters did. You're not serious. My sister's voice came out thin and shaky. Her eyes were red from crying through another appointment recap. She searched my face like she hoped I was joking. I held her stare and nodded once because backing down hurt. You would do that for me. Her chair scraped back and she leaned across the table. Her fingers dug into my wrist with desperate strength. I felt her nails and this weird rush of pride. In that moment, I liked the way she needed me. My mom started blinking fast like she might cry again. Emma, slow down, this is huge. Her words said caution, her eyes screamed please mean it. My dad pushed his plate away and folded his hands. He watched me like I was signing up for execution. Under the table, my boyfriend finally moved. He slid his hand over my knee and squeezed hard. Not painful, just steady, like he was bracing something. I mistook it for support, and that is on me. I didn't look at his face, and I should have. I already talked to my doctor, my sister blurted. The hope hit her so fast she almost shook. They said surrogacy might be an option someday. Someday turned into now because I opened my stupid mouth. She was already pulling the future toward her like a rope. We need to talk to real specialists. My dad's voice cut through her excitement like a knife. We need lawyers, we need to understand everything first. He listed things, but he never said no outright. That silence gave everyone permission to pretend this was fine. My sister turned back to me, eyes shining hard. You're sure, Em, you're actually sure about this? Every part of me screamed to slow down and think. My mouth got there first, and that ruined everything. I'm sure, I said, and the room let out one breath. They all started talking at once, loud and messy. My mom already planned calls, appointments, questions for insurance. My dad muttered about contracts while scrolling through his phone. My sister clung to my arm like a life raft. My boyfriend sat very still, like movement might break something. Looking back now, I can see the split clearly. On one side, their relief flooded the whole house. On the other side, his jaw locked tighter every second. No one noticed that second part, not even me then. I only noticed how good it felt to be the answer. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. His thumb drew one slow line on my knee. Nobody else heard him over the noise and planning. I heard him, I just chose to ignore it. Hero sounded better than coward in my head. My sister started pacing, already in full control mode. We should call the clinic tomorrow and ask about steps. She grabbed a notebook and scribbled names and numbers. Every new word pushed me deeper into this promise. Nobody asked what I needed from any of it. I tried to add one small boundary into the chaos. We should talk together, all four of us, before anything. I glanced at my boyfriend for backup without saying his name. He gave me a quick nod, eyes dark and unreadable. My sister just said sure, already 3 decisions ahead. Thank you, she kept repeating like a broken record. She hugged me so tight my ribs actually hurt. Her breath hitched against my shoulder, short and frantic. I knew you'd save me, she whispered against my ear. That sentence hooked straight into my guilt and stayed there. We left later than usual, everyone buzzing around us. My mom shoved leftovers into containers we never touched. My sister followed us to the door, still clutching her notebook. Text me when you get home, please, I'm freaking out. She smiled wide, but her hands trembled near the lock. The second the door shut behind us, the air changed. No more noise, no more clapping themselves on the back. Just the quiet hum of the car and my pulse. He started the engine and stared straight ahead too long. I knew a speech was loading in his brain. That was a lot, he said finally, pulling onto the street. His voice was calm, maybe a little too flat. Not angry, not yet, just controlled in a scary way. I kept my eyes on the road lights sliding past. If you're mad, just say it, I pushed out. I'm not mad, he said, and I almost laughed. Because that is exactly what people say before exploding. I'm worried about you, that is all right now. The way he gripped the wheel said something different though. I decided not to look too closely at that. He asked the question nobody else had dared to touch. Do you actually want T? Oh, be pregnant or just fix her? My stomach dropped heavy and sharp like falling off a step. I opened my mouth with the answer everyone expected from me. I want to help her, I said, which was true enough. We drove in thick silence for a while after that. I counted streetlights just to keep my hands steady. Part of me wanted him to tell me to stop. Another part wanted him to praise me like they did. Neither part got what it wanted that night. At home he carried in the food, careful, quiet movements. He set everything on the counter and leaned against it. Can we at least meet a therapist together first? The request surprised me more than the idea of injections. I nodded fast because it sounded reasonable and harmless. In my head I saw my sister's face again. The way it had changed from hopeless to almost glowing. You know that feeling when someone looks at you like that? Like you are the only person standing between them and collapse. I chased that rush instead of his concern. Later in bed, I stared at the ceiling too long. He lay on his side, back turned, shoulders tight. I wanted to reach for him and promise balance. I also wanted to screenshot my sister's gratitude forever. I did neither, I just stayed very still. Are you awake? He asked, voice low in the dark. Yeah. Promise me you won't let them steamroll you on this. He waited, the room holding its breath with us. I won't, I whispered, already knowing that was a lie. That was the night everything shifted, even if quietly. My sister saw me as her solution, not her equal. My parents saw a chance to finally fix an aching problem. My boyfriend saw the cost I refused to calculate properly. And me, I saw a version of myself I wanted to believe. I wish I could say I paused and thought harder. That I researched, that I considered the strain on us. Instead, I clung to that one bright idea like oxygen. Carry a baby, give it to my sister, save the family. I had no idea I was lighting a fuse. Can you let her answer? The therapist looked straight at my sister across the little table. My sister's mouth stayed open mid-speech, like someone had hit pause. I felt both grateful and weirdly exposed under that calm stare. My fingers clenched around the tissue I had not used yet. We already decided, my sister pushed out after a beat. She is carrying our baby, we just need everyone on board. She gestured between me and my boyfriend like we were extras. I watched her hand move and felt my chest tighten again. I had wanted support, not a spokesperson. The therapist turned back toward me, hands folded very neatly. What do you need personally to feel safe during this process? That question landed heavier than anything medical in my inbox. I opened my mouth, nothing useful came out at first. Everyone in that room waited for me to make rules. I want choices, I managed, my throat annoyingly dry already. About appointments, about my schedule, about how we share news. It sounded small once I said it out loud in there. My sister's jaw worked like she was chewing down an argument. My boyfriend stayed very quiet, eyes fixed on the rug. I'm fine with that as long as health comes first. My sister straightened up like she was accepting a business deal. Doctor orders are non-negotiable, everything else we can discuss. On paper that sounded fair, in real life it scared me. Doctor orders meant someone else's body getting prioritized over mine. The therapist asked us to list specific boundaries, one by one. No surprise visits, no medical decisions without me physically present. Updates shared in a group chat, not 20 calls a day. It all went into a neat bullet list on her pad. I watched the ink and knew that list would be tested. Outside the office, my sister grabbed both my hands at once. That went amazing, right? We are such a great team. She bounced on her toes like we just won a prize. My boyfriend stepped back a little, hands deep in his pockets. That gap between them felt larger than the parking lot. We still need to talk through our stuff later, he murmured. He aimed it at me, but my sister heard the tone. Her smile stiffened around the edges like wet cardboard drying. We are all on the same side here, remember that. The way she said it already sounded like a warning. The first hormone shot happened 2 days after that meeting. The nurse walked me through the steps once, voice brisk and rehearsed. Alcohol swab, pinch, needle at the correct angle, slow push. My sister filmed the whole thing on her phone for records. I tried not to flinch as my skin burned under her attention. You will probably feel bloated, maybe moody, maybe exhausted. The nurse handed me a printout with possible reactions listed loudly. Call us if anything feels intense or strange, do not wait. My sister tucked the paper into her folder like sacred instructions. I tucked my fear somewhere behind my rib. Age where nobody looked. In the hallway, she launched straight into planning mode again. I will come by tonight, we can organize your meds together. Her tone left zero space for my answer to be no. My boyfriend opened his mouth, then shut it with a visible snap. I stepped in faster because argument here felt unsafe. Let's start tomorrow instead, I told her, forcing my voice steady. I need one evening to adjust, maybe just nap and drink water. She frowned, like resting was some personal insult to our mission. Fine, but do not skip food and text me if anything twinges. She hugged me hard, then walked off, already typing notes. In the car, my boyfriend flicked the visor up and down. That boundary thing lasted a whole 30 minutes, he muttered finally. He was not wrong, and that made everything land sharper. I am trying to keep everyone calm, including you, I answered. The words came out sharper than I intended, which hurt. At home, the side effects arrived faster than my bag hit the floor. My abdomen ached with a dull, stretchy pressure that would not stop. My head felt heavy, like a storm cloud sat right behind my eyes. He brought me water and a blanket without saying anything smug. I wanted to bawl and laugh at the same time. My phone buzzed nonstop with my sister's check-ins and plans. Rate your discomfort from 1 to 10. Do you feel any sharp pain on one side? Send a photo of the injection area, just in case. My patience wore thin while my skin still stung. I typed back shorter responses, hoping she would read the tone. 5. Just pressure. Looks normal. Then she called anyway, video ringing cutting through the room. My boyfriend raised an eyebrow like he already knew the script. Tilt the camera, I need to see your stomach, she insisted. I tried to angle it without pulling my shirt too high. She squinted at the screen like a coach reviewing players. You should eat something salty, also stop wearing tight leggings. I glanced down at my clothes and felt strangely scolded. After the call, he sat at the edge of the bed. Do you want me to be part of that group text? He looked tired, not dramatic, just worn down around the eyes. I do not want you dragged into every single ping, I replied. It sounded protective, but it was also about avoiding more conflict. The next clinic visit landed on a day he had requested off. He had mentioned that date weeks earlier, wanted a quiet evening together. When my sister forwarded the appointment confirmation, she added a note. We will all grab dinner after, you two can reschedule your thing. I stared at the message like it was a minor earthquake. I tried to negotiate without sounding ungrateful or selfish or both. Could we maybe not do dinner that night? He had plans. I tapped the text 3 times before sending, then regretted it. She replied almost instantly, like she had prepared the answer. His plans can move, follicle scans cannot, you know that. I read her words out loud without meaning to. He was standing near the counter, rinsing a glass slowly. She wrote that. His voice went flat, colder than any clinic room. I wanted to throw my phone in the sink next to him. Look, the timing is rough, but this phase is temporary, I tried. I hated how familiar my own reassurance sounded in my ears. He set the glass down a little too firmly and faced me. At what point do we get any part of our life back? That question hit harder than the needle earlier that week. That night my sister arrived anyway, earlier than she had promised. She came through the door with a bag full of labeled bottles. Goods, you are up, we need to review everything before tomorrow. She spread out packets with quick, efficient hands that never paused. My boyfriend leaned against the fridge and watched from a distance. We are cutting caffeine starting now, it messes with absorption rates. She snapped open a pill organizer and started sorting like a pro. I checked 3 forums, everyone agrees on this part at least. She glanced at his mug and clicked her tongue without a word. The room shrank around that sound more than around any chart. He opened the fridge, took out a drink, then put it back. The tiny surrender made my chest squeeze tighter than any bra. This is getting intense, he said quietly, more to himself than anyone. My sister did not respond, too busy lining up tomorrow's schedule. I sat between them at the table, feeling like disputed ground. Before bed, she walked me through the next injection step by step. Text me right before you do it, in case something feels off. She spoke slowly, like a nurse in a training video on loop. He stood in the doorway with his arms folded tight. No one asked if I wanted privacy for any of it. After she finally left, the apartment felt strangely hollow and loud. He paced the living room once, twice, then stopped near the couch. I do not like how she talks, eh? About your body, he started. The way he said you made my skin prickle under my shirt. She is terrified, I answered, and I was defending her again. I get that she is scared, I really do. He dragged a hand through his hair, eyes on the ceiling. But this constant monitoring and the way she orders you around. He trailed off, then tried a softer angle that hurt even more. I miss you choosing things for yourself, that is all. I wanted to shout that this was me choosing loudly. Instead, I just sat there and let the silence swell. I kept thinking about eggs, dates, success rates, debt, everything. It felt easier to obsess over numbers than his unhappy face. So I shut down that conversation with a tired shrug. In the bathroom later, syringe in hand, I caught my reflection. My expression looked older, like someone who had signed invisible contracts. My phone buzzed on the counter with my sister's reminder alarm. Ready when you are, the message on the screen cheerfully read. I took a breath and drove the needle in anyway. That was the pattern that settled in over the next days. Doctor visits, instructions, group messages, constant evaluation of how my body behaved. My sister hovered over every symptom like a hawk on a field. My boyfriend stepped back inch by inch, trying not to snap completely. And me, I told myself this was just the necessary phase. I wish I could say I pushed back harder right then. That I protected my own space while all the planning swirled. Instead, I let my calendar fill with scans and checklists and rules. My body became a shared project before the embryo even existed. I did not realize yet how hard it would be to take it back. You cannot keep adding things to our week. His voice cut through the speaker before I could hit mute. My sister stopped talking about baby shower themes mid-sentence. The video call froze for half a heartbeat while everyone recalibrated. My stomach clenched because this was the moment I had dreaded. He walked into frame and rested his hand on my chair. He did not smile or play nice for anyone this time. We agreed on one appointment and one planning thing each week. He tapped the table once, sharp and loud in the quiet. Right now you have her booked almost every single evening. On screen, my sister's expression turned stiff and unreadable. We are in a crucial stage, there is no time to slack. Her husband shifted beside her and stared down at his lap. This is not about parties, this is about doing this right. She leaned closer to the camera like she could push through it. I am the one doing the shots, I blurted, trying to help. My palms were damp and I wiped them on my leggings. I just need some nights without extra calls or group planning. I tried to sound light, but my voice shook on planning. That little wobble made his jaw tight even more. You heard her, she needs space built into this schedule. He did not raise his tone, which somehow felt more dangerous. My sister let out a short laugh that did not sound amused. Space is fine, neglect is not, we cannot treat this casually. Her eyes shimmered and I watched guilt crawl right up my spine. What part of this looks casual to you right now? He spread his arms wide like he wanted to point at everything. She injects herself daily, she barely sleeps, she keeps working full time. His voice picked up speed, like a train with no brakes. You want 3 nursery meetings this week on top of that. Her husband finally spoke, almost under his breath into his microphone. We can probably move some of it, maybe push one thing back. It landed like someone offering a band-aid over a broken limb. My sister cut him off with a sharp look that silenced him. We do not have unlimited cycles, every decision matters right now. In that second, I honestly felt torn straight down the middle. Because she was right about the stakes, painfully right about timing. And he was right about my body, which hated me already. I wish someone wiser would clock in and pick a side. Instead, they both stared at me, waiting for a ruling. I can handle one call this week after work. The compromise came out before I could weigh anything properly. Not 3, not 4, 1, and I pick which night. My pulse thumped hard in my ears while I waited. It was the first time I set a condition in front of them. Fine, my sister answered, but the word landed heavy. Her smile flicked back on, bright and sharp like a mask. We will do Wednesday then, we can make that one count. She dabbed under one eye, though I did not see any tears. You know, I just want to give this baby the best. He withdrew his hand from my chair and stepped out of frame. The loss of that contact felt louder than any shouted insult. Then start by not running her into the ground, he muttered. I ended the call with some rushed goodbye none of us meant. The screen went dark and the room felt instant. DLY smaller. He paced once across the living room and back again. I cannot keep watching them treat you like equipment. He dragged a hand over his face, slow and frustrated. I stayed on the couch, legs tucked under me like a shield. You know they are terrified, that is all this is. Terror does not give them a pass to manage your entire calendar. He stopped in front of me and planted his feet wide. Today it is calls, tomorrow it is who sits where at appointments. His jaw worked like he was holding something even harsher back. I am done nodding while they wear you down like this. The worst part is that I wanted to agree immediately. My whole body ached for someone to step in and defend me. Instead, I heard myself playing referee and peacemaker as usual. You cannot go at her like that, she hears only attack. I hated how quickly I slid into that role every time. He stared at me for a long second, breathing slow and controlled. I spoke up because you were not, and that terrified me. That hit a little too close, so I looked away from him. I am speaking now, I just need everyone calmer, I insisted. We both knew my voice on that call sounded anything but strong. My phone buzzed on the cushion between us, insistent and shrill. I already knew who it was without even checking the screen. He lifted his hands in surrender and walked toward the bedroom. Of course, crisis number 12 for the day, do not mind me. The door clicked behind him and I picked up like a coward. I cannot believe how he talked to us, my sister wrote first. The messages poured in, long and choppy, one after another. He has always had control issues, you know that deep down. He does not want you bonded to this baby more than him. Every line pressed on the exact soft spots she knew by heart. She did not mention my exhaustion once in that entire flood. There was nothing like, how are you feeling after hormones today? Just I am shaking and I feel attacked and this scares me. Reading it, my chest tightened in the same old familiar way. I started typing answers that defended her instead of me. He is protective, not abusive, I wrote, hands trembling slightly. He is worried about my health, not the baby taking his place. I watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear as she replied. You are making excuses, that is what people in bad situations do. That line sat on my screen like an accusation with teeth. For the records, that cut really deep in the moment. Because what if she was right and I was the naive one? What if I had slowly normalized something dangerous without noticing it? Then I would remember who showed up with water at 3 a.m. It was him, not her, while I curled around cramps in the bathroom. She switched tactics when I did not fully agree with her. I love you, I just do not trust his priorities, came next. If he loved you enough, he would sacrifice this season for us. Us, not you and him, not you and me, just us. She rewrote the teams in one sentence and I let it slide. Later that week, he skipped one clinic appointment on purpose. He told me that morning he needed distance before he exploded. I would rather miss an ultrasound than say something unforgivable. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his keys, and left for work. I watched him go and tried not to read it as abandonment. At the visit, my sister slid into the empty chair beside me. Figures he would bail when things get serious, she murmured. Her tone sounded casual, but her eyes were sharp and watchful. He is showing you who he is, please pay attention this time. I stared at the monitor and pretended I had not heard. The nurse chatted about measurements and progress and next steps. My sister took careful notes, intense focus on every single instruction. On the ride home, she launched into another speech about loyalty. We are building a family here, that is not a hobby. The word hobby stung, like she was talking about him directly. That night he asked one simple question at dinner, no raised voice. Did she talk about me while I was not there? I hesitated for just a beat too long before I answered. Not really, she mostly focused on the doctor, I claimed. It was only half a lie, and I hate that I used it. He watched my face, trying to decide if he believed me. I need you to be honest with me about this, he said. He rested his fork down and leaned his elbows on the table. If she is turning you against me, I need to know now. Hearing a phrase that bluntly made my pulse jump in my throat. I shrugged like it was all smaller than it felt inside. She is scared, she vents, I do not take all of it seriously. That answer satisfied nobody, least of all me sitting there. He nodded once, but the distance across the table stayed. We both chewed in silence, like strangers sharing a meal. The next showdown landed over something that sounded harmless at first. My sister called out throwing a big gender reveal party soon. She wanted it at our place with a long guest list. You two can host, it will show we are all united. I knew instantly that would light him up like gasoline. We cannot host that, he told her when she insisted on speaker. This apartment is already a war zone with all this stress. He paced while he talked, hand raking through his hair repeatedly. You want to celebrate, fine, pick a venue that is not our home. The word home came out hard like a slammed door. On the other end she went very quiet, which was worse. I did not realize our child was such an inconvenience to you. I actually flinched at that sentence like she had slapped me. He stopped pacing and stared at the phone in disbelief. This is about protecting her sanity, not my convenience, he answered. You are isolating her from us, she threw back, voice rising. First it is limiting calls, now it is banning us from your space. The list grew longer with every breath she dragged in. If something goes wrong, I will remember who supported us. The threat sat there between us, humming like live wire. I ended the call before it turned into something nuclear. I will talk to her later when she calms down more. He let out a short laugh that sounded nothing like amusement. Of course you will smooth it over, you always smooth everything. He dropped onto the couch and pressed his palms over his eyes. In that moment I finally saw how cornered he felt. Not by the pregnancy itself, but by the way it owned us. He had tried gentle concern, then firm boundaries, now blunt refusal. Each step only made my sister cling harder to this new dynamic. And I kept standing in the middle, afraid to move. If I am honest, this is where I could have changed course. I could have pulled everyone back to that therapist's office again. I could have drawn sharper lines around our home and our time. Instead, I kept patching holes after every fight, never fixing the leak. By the time we reached that family dinner, the whole thing was already sinking. My sister cranked the volume up right as my stomach flipped. I had one hand on the back of a chair. The bass thumped through my ribs while everyone yelled greetings. He brushed my elbow and leaned close to my ear. Tell me if this gets too much, okay? I caught my reflection in the glass of the cabinet door. Round her face, the start of a curve under my shirt. My sister swooped in before I could process anything properly. You look good, really good, this is working. She rubbed my belly like a lucky charm in front of everyone. My mom hurried over with a platter and a tight smile. Sit down before you faint, you have that glow. She shooed me toward the chair at the center. He tried to guide me to the end of the table. My sister blocked that move with a hand on my shoulder. You are the guest of honor, you sit here. She dragged out the seat between her and our mom. He ended up across from us near my dad instead. That split in the seating felt weirdly symbolic and heavy. I told myself I was overthinking and just hormonal again. Conversation started fast, everyone talking over everyone else. My sister launched into an update about nursery furniture deliveries. My mom asked about cravings and strange dreams and every symptom. My dad raised a toast to teamwork with forced enthusiasm. He just watched me over his glass with that careful focus. The smell from the kitchen hit me like a punch. I swallowed hard and grabbed the water near my plate. The music pounded and my vision swam for a second. I pressed my fingers into the table to ground myself. He noticed immediately and leaned forward, eyes on my face. Can we turn that down a bit? She looks pale. He spoke loud enough to cut through the noise. My sister stiffened like someone had tugged an invisible wire. She reached for the remote but only to adjust it higher. She is pregnant, not made of glass, relax. That is not relaxing her, look at her hands. He nodded toward my fingers, which trembled slightly on the edge. I curled them into my palm, annoyed at my own body. Everyone's gaze shifted to me as if on command. Suddenly, I was a panel showing symptoms for discussion again. My sister laughed, sharp and bright and not at all kind. She is fine, she just needs to eat something already. She pushed a serving dish toward me with forced cheer. Come on, you have to keep calories up for the baby. She emphasized the baby like it was sitting in my chair. He rested his forearms on the table and did not smile. She also needs less noise and less pressure, that is reasonable. His tone stayed calm, which somehow made it land harder. We came to share a meal, not run a circus. My dad cleared his throat, but my sister spoke first. There it is again, you acting like this is your project. She set her fork down with a loud clatter near my plate. You keep trying to control E. Very detail around her lately. Her stare locked onto him like she had waited for this. I am done pretending, that does not scare me. My chest tightened because I knew what was coming next. She had been rehearsing this speech over text for days. I had seen pieces of it in our late-night messages. Hearing it out loud still hit me harder than I expected. It suddenly felt like I was not invited to my own life. You do not like this pregnancy, just admit it already. She jabbed a finger in his direction across the dishes. You did not show up last appointment, you refused the party. Her voice rose with each item like she was stacking evidence. You treat this child like competition for her attention. He sat back, jaw clenched, fingers linked together on the table. You are twisting everything I have done to support her. He kept his voice low, which made everyone lean in closer. I asked for smaller events because she goes home exhausted. He glanced at me like he wanted backup and approval. I opened my mouth and nothing came out, just air. My throat locked up under all those eyes on me. It felt like choosing a side with one word or gesture. So I stared at my plate and pretended to examine the food. That silence might be the thing I regret the most. My sister caught that hesitation and pounced on it instantly. See, she does not even feel safe answering around you anymore. She threw an arm around my shoulders like she was shielding me. You talk for her, you decide what is too much for her. Her grip actually hurt, but I did not move away. He laughed once, short and bitter, no humor at all. The only person steamrolling her choices lately has been you. He spoke directly to her now, not the room. You schedule her evenings, you comment on her clothes, everything. His chair scraped as he leaned forward, posture tense. My mom finally tried to intervene with shaking hands raised. Let us calm down and eat first, we can talk later. Her voice wobbled like she already knew that would not happen. My dad stared at his plate as if it might rescue him. Nobody moved their forks, the whole table just froze. My sister ignored both of them and stayed locked on him. You keep acting like I am the villain for caring. She pushed her chair back slightly, knees bumping the table edge. You hate that my baby will always connect me to her. Hearing her call it my baby stabbed deeper than I expected. He inhaled slowly, like he was counting numbers in his head. I do not hate any baby, that idea is ridiculous. He switched focus to me, eyes softer for just a moment. I love her, I am scared watching her get swallowed whole. Those words should have comforted me, they only made the room tilt. She slammed her glass down so hard liquid splashed over her hand. Do not stand there and pretend you love this child. Her voice cracked on child, anger and panic mixed together. If you loved this family, you would not fight every step. Her husband reached for her arm, she jerked away. I am carrying your embryo inside my body right now. The sentence slipped out quiet, shaking, almost an apology. Everyone turned toward me again like I was a witness. I need both of you to stop treating me like property. My hands shook so hard the cutlery rattled against the plate. That is exactly what he is doing to you, she shot back. Her eyes were wide and almost wild with fear and fury. He wants you under his thumb, dependent, grateful, obedient. She hurled those words like she wanted them to stick permanently. He hates that you are finally doing something for us instead. He stood up fast, chair scraping across the floor behind him. Enough, I am not going to stand here and take that. He pressed his palms flat on the table, leaning toward her. You are using her body and calling it love and sacrifice. Each word landed heavy and my pulse thumped in my ears. My dad muttered his name under his breath, almost pleading. My mom whispered something about lowering voices for the neighbors. My sister looked at me again, only at me this time. You are more than his girlfriend, you are my child's lifeline. She was crying now, tears sliding down fast and messy. You are talking like I belong to you, I managed quietly. The truth of that sentence scared me as much as her. I offered to help, I did not sign away my mind. My voice shook, but the words finally came out. It was like watching myself from somewhere near the ceiling. She took a shuddering breath and then delivered the line. Right now you are an incubator, and he is poisoning you. The whole table went dead silent on that word. Incubator. It clanged around in my head, mechanical and cold and dehumanizing. My mom gasped and reached for my sister's hand too late. My dad's fork slipped from his fingers and hit the plate. He stared at my sister like he had never met her before. He looked ready to say something that might sply. Tee everything open. My sister kept her eyes locked on me, waiting for agreement. He reacted faster than anyone, face draining of any softness. You just called her an incubator, do you hear yourself? He laughed once, that awful disbelieving sound again. You do not see a person sitting there, just equipment. His hand shook where it rested near his glass. I wanted to stand up and shout at both of them. Tell her she had crossed a line she could not uncross. Tell him he was not helping by pouring gasoline on it. Instead, I sat there frozen, heart pounding, cheeks burning hot. That mix of shame and anger nearly knocked the air out. My sister tried to claw her way back from what she said. I did not mean it like that, you know what I meant. She reached toward my arm, fingers still damp from tears. I meant you are crucial, vital, we cannot do this without you. Every attempt to fix it only made that word echo louder. He pulled his keys from his pocket and closed his fist tight. I am done being your villain in this story. He looked at me, not her, eyes tired and hurting. You do not have to stay here and let them talk like that. The invitation hung there between us, heavy and tempting. My mom finally stood up, voice raised for the first time. That is enough, both of you, sit down right now. Her hands trembled as she pointed from one side to the other. We will not tear this family apart at this table. Her words came out strong, but nobody obeyed. My sister glared at him like he had slapped her. You want her away from us, you want her all to yourself. She turned to me, breathing hard, cheeks streaked and blotchy. Please do not let him drag you away from your own child. That was the exact moment the whole room picked teams. My dad finally spoke, low and rough, eyes on me. Maybe we all need a pause before we say worse things. He looked older in that second than I had ever seen. Go home if you need to, we can revisit this later. The word later sounded like a promise and a threat together. I pushed my chair back slowly, legs unsteady under the weight. My heart felt jammed up in my throat, choking everything. He waited, still standing, watching me like the verdict was coming. My sister clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white and rigid. Everyone else held their breath, as if I was on trial. I am going home, I finally managed, voice barely above a whisper. I feel sick and I need to lie down away from this. I did not look at anyone directly because I would crumble. He moved to my side instantly and offered his arm again. She made a sound halfway between a sob and a scoff. So that is it, you are choosing him over your own family. Her words chased me down the hallway like physical objects. I paused at the doorway and almost turned back to argue. Then that one label flashed again in my mind like a warning. Incubator. My hand tightened on the doorframe until my fingers hurt. I walked out without answering, which in her head probably confirmed everything. He opened the car door and waited while I lowered myself carefully. Neither of us spoke until the house disappeared in the mirror. My pulse finally started to slow, but a new dread settled in. I knew that fight was not the end, just the opening shot. He dropped his overnight bag by the door before I finished my sentence. I am not doing another dinner like that again. His shoulders were tight, hands still shaking from the drive. I stood there with my coat half off and my throat burning. Inside my ribs, something already knew this was not just about dinner. My phone buzzed nonstop on the counter while we faced each other. I did not even need to look to know who it was. He glanced at the screen, lighting up every few seconds. Let me guess, she is already rewriting what happened. He nudged the bag with his foot, not even trying to hide it. I should answer before she spirals worse, I muttered. I hated how automatic that sounded even in my own ears. He let out a sharp breath and rubbed his forehead hard. Of course you should, because her feelings always outrun yours. That sentence hung there, ugly and too accurate for comfort. I grabbed the phone and read through the flood of messages. You walked out on your family. He dragged you away when we needed to talk. He wants you isolated so nobody can warn you. Each text tightened a knot somewhere under my sternum. I typed and erased 3 different versions of a reply. Anything gentle looked like agreement with her narrative. Anything firm looked like choosing him over her forever. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard while my pulse climbed. He watched me like he already knew I would cave. Do not respond right now, he said, voice low but steady. You are shaking, you can barely breathe, this is not the time. He took the phone from my hand and set it down. My fingers curled uselessly in the empty space he left. I need to calm her down before she calls my parents. As if on cue, my mom's name lit up the screen. He stepped back, palms out, already exhausted by the pattern. Take it, but please remember what they just called you. That word from the table shot back through my skull. Incubator. Yeah, it was not exactly easy to forget. I answered, and my mom started talking without greeting. She is hysterical, she says he kidnapped you from your own home. I closed my eyes and leaned against the counter for support. We all said things we did not mean, you know that. Her voice shook, but she still dodged that label my sister used. I need a pause, I told her, surprising myself with the word. A real pause, no group calls, no ambush dinners, nothing. It came out rough, but at least it came out complete. On the other end, she went quiet long enough to scare me. Then she whispered, your sister is saying something very different. Of course she was. What is she telling you exactly? I asked, jaw clenched tight. That he is controlling you, that you are not allowed to talk. That line almost made me laugh, considering who blew up earlier. She wants you to come stay here or at her place. I could picture the layout of that option too clearly. Her hovering over every drink of water, every nap, every call. Her listening in on my conversations under the excuse of worry. Me sleeping under her roof while growing her child inside mine. It felt less like support and more like custody of a body. I am not moving anywhere tonight, I answered, forcing each word. I am home, I am safe, I need everyone to stay put. I knew the second I said home, my mom heard the choice. She exhaled hard, like I had confirmed her worst prediction. Then expect her to be very hurt, she murmured before hanging up. I set the phone down again and pressed my palms to my face. He watched me from a few steps away, eyes searching mine. Well, that sounded promising, he said, voice dry and tired. I dropped my hands and gave him the shortest summary possible. They want me to move in with them immediately. His eyebrows shot up, then he laughed once without humor. Of course they do, easier to monitor you if you live there. He picked up the overnight bag and set it on the couch. I packed in case you wanted space from me, honestly. That last word hit me harder than anything my mom said. You think I want you gone after what happened? I asked. He shrugged, looking down at the floor instead of at me. Your sister framed it as you versus me in front of everyone. His jaw flexed while he swallowed whatever came next. I do not know where I stand in that story anymore. I walked over and touched his sleeve just to anchor myself. I walked out with you, I reminded both of us quietly. That counts for something, even if nobody saw my reasoning. He looked at my hand on his arm, then up at my face. For now it counts, but they are already planning their next move. He was not wrong. An email came in from my sister less than an hour later. Not a message, an actual document from the surrogacy lawyer. Subject line, clarifying expectations so we all feel secure. My stomach lurched before I even opened the attachment. He watched over my shoulder while I scrolled through paragraphs. There were sections about medical decision-making and emergency protocols. Lines about compensation, insurance coverage, and parental rights at birth. All things we had talked about in theory at the beginning. Now they were weaponized as proof that I owed certain behaviors. There, he pointed, finger tapping near one section midway down. Residence and availability during pregnancy. The clause said I would make reasonable efforts to be accessible. It mentioned staying within a certain driving radius of their house. Nothing illegal, but suddenly it felt like a leash anyway. She wants to add an addendum that you stay with her. His voice dropped even lower as he read the suggested edits. To ensure optimal conditions for fetal development and maternal monitoring. He lifted his head and stared at me like he could not believe it. She is literally turning this into supervised gestation. I swallowed hard, throat working around a lump of panic. The worst part was that a small corner of me understood the fear. After everything she had lost before, control probably felt like safety. But understanding did not make this feel any less suffocating. I pressed my hand against my belly and felt a small flutter. You do not have to sign any amendment, he reminded me. We already have a contract, it does not own your address. He moved the laptop away from me like it was toxic. I will not stay in a home where you are treated like equipment. That word dug into me again, now looping with incubator. I went to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the mattress. For a second I imagined walking into her guest room with a suitcase. Her hovering the doorway, adjusting my pillows, checking every snack. Her controlling visitors' calls, even what shows I watched for stress. The picture made my skin crawl and my lungs tighten. He stood in the doorway, leaning on the frame with folded arms. Tell me honestly, are you considering it? He asked. I hesitated too long, which was its own kind of answer. I am considering anything that keeps the peace, I finally admitted. The second I said it, I wanted to take it back. He stepped fully into the room and dropped onto the chair. Peace for who? Because it is not you, he asked quietly. You curl up crying after her calls, you shake at dinners. He pointed toward my stomach, hand gentle but expression fierce. You are already doing the biggest thing anyone can do. I looked down at the curve under my shirt and exhaled slowly. He reached for the overnight bag again, fingers tightening around the strap. If staying with me means constant war with them, I will go. The words came out too calm, like he had rehearsed them. I do not want to be the excuse they use to hurt you. That sentence knocked the air right out of me. You leaving would not fix anything, I managed after a beat. They would still be angry, I would just be alone with it. He watched my face like he was trying to read between words. I would rather be the villain outside the house than inside it. My phone lit up once more with a new notification. This time it was my sister, not with a message but a call. I stared at the screen, then hit speaker before I overthought. Her voice came through already raw, like she had been crying hard. Please come stay here, I cannot sleep knowing you are with him. I traded a quick glance with him, then focused on the call. I am home, I am safe, I need to calm down, I said. You are not safe with someone who dragged you away from your family. I could hear her pacing from the way her breath changed. He is pulling you from your child, open your eyes. This baby is yours legally, not physically, I answered carefully. The silence after that line felt like a drop off a cliff. I am still the one carrying, I am still a person. My voice trembled on person, but I did not back down. On his side of the room, he stilled completely. Then act like one and stop letting him speak for you. Her words came rapid, no space for mine to land. Move in with us until delivery, prove you are not under control. That was the demand, bare and loud and final. I felt my pulse pound in my ears while I chose. I am not moving, I said, forcing each syllable clear. I will keep coming to appointments, I will keep my promises. I let out a breath and added the piece that mattered. But I am not changing my address because you are scared. My hand shook when I hit end, but I did not reverse it. The sound in the room shifted after that call cut off. He let out a long breath and dropped his head into his hands. I was ready to pack the rest and get out tonight. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes I almost never saw. If you had chosen her house, I would have walked away. Hearing it framed, that plainly threw my stomach into a free fall. You were actually going to leave, not just the idea of it. He nodded once, throat moving as he swallowed hard again. I will not live with someone who is monitored like a prisoner. My chest hurt and my eyes went hot at the same time. We sat there in that thick silence, both processing separate disasters. Me picturing his empty side of the bed and the quiet afterward. Him probably picturing me under my sister's roof being watched. Neither scene felt like a future where I stayed intact. For a second I wondered if carrying this baby meant losing everything. Later that night, my parents called again on a joint video. Their faces hovered on the screen, tired and strained and worried. My mom spoke first, voice softer than earlier but still tense. She is saying if you refuse to move, she wants new terms. My dad cleared his throat and added, she mentioned revisiting the contract. My pulse spiked because that sounded dangerously close to legal threats. We already signed everything. We sat with the lawyer together. My dad nodded slowly, lips pressed together in a thin line. She is not talking about changing who raises the baby, he reassured. She is talking about what she owes you and what you owe her. I almost laughed at the word owes, it fit too well. It was never supposed to be a debt system, I told them. I carried because I wanted to, not for leverage. My mom's eyes filled, but she blinked the tears away fast. She does not see it like leverage, she sees it like survival. We need another meeting at that office, I told them. A real one, all of us, with a neutral person in the room. Saying it out loud felt like grabbing a railing in the dark. If she wants to talk terms, then I want mine on the table. The phrase my tur. MS startled even me, but it was already out. After we hung up, he leaned in the doorway again. You are really going back into a room with them? He asked. I nodded, stretching my legs out in front of me slowly. If I do not, she will just escalate from the sidelines. I rubbed my sternum because everything inside felt tight and crowded. I will come if you want me there, I will stay away if not. He gave me that choice without raising his voice or guilt tripping. Whatever keeps you safest in that room, that is the priority. I hesitated, then answered honestly this time instead of diplomatically. I need you there, but I also need you calm. He smiled for the first time since the dinner exploded. Calm is pushing it, but I can be controlled, he said. He reached over and pressed his palm to my belly gently. You and this little tenant are the only people I care about. I rolled my eyes at Tenant, but I could feel myself soften. That night I barely slept, my mind running through possible outcomes. Worst case, she walked away furious and cut me off completely. Even worse, she tried to push me out of the pregnancy legally. Best case, we actually found a way to set real boundaries. Somewhere in the middle sat the most likely messy reality. Looking back, that was the fulcrum moment, the tipping point. The bag by the door, the call telling me to move out. The contract on the screen that protected everything except my sanity. That was the night I finally realized this was not just sacrifice. It was also a custody battle over me, not only the baby. My sister pointed at my boyfriend's chair before I could sit. I want him over there, not next to you during this. We were in the lawyer's office with everyone present again. He froze beside me with his hand still on the chair. That was the tone of someone calling security, not family. The attorney glanced between us with a practiced neutral expression. For this to work, everyone needs to stay respectful and focused. He gestured toward the empty seats around the little conference table. I sat, my boyfriend took the spot beside the door. My sister dropped into the chair opposite me like an opponent. Your parents asked me to facilitate, not rewrite the contract today. The lawyer folded his hands and looked directly at my sister first. You mentioned some new concerns about living arrangements and support people. She smoothed the front of her shirt with quick jerky movements. My concern is that her environment is unsafe for my child. There it was. She skipped right past me and went straight to the baby. Define unsafe, my boyfriend said from his corner near the door. He did not raise his tone, but every word felt tight. If you mean me disagreeing with you, that is not danger. The lawyer held up a hand for calm before it escalated. Let us start with what you would like to change. My sister slid a printed list across the table toward him. He scanned down the bullet points, frown growing more pronounced. My parents watched his face like he was about to sentence us. She wanted me in her house from 30 weeks onward. She wanted control over visitors near my due date. She wanted my boyfriend nowhere near the birth unless she approved. She wanted veto power over what I did for stress management. Reading it earlier made my stomach knot, hearing it aloud made it worse. These requests are quite intrusive, given the existing agreement. The lawyer spoke slowly, like he wanted each word to land. especially anything that restricts her relationships or residence without compensation. My sister leaned forward, eyes bright and wounded at the same time. You keep acting like this is paperwork, this is my one chance. That line stabbed me because I recognized the terror under it. The part of her that pictured empty nurseries and quiet car rides. I also recognized the part that ignored my whole life. I shifted in my chair, feeling the baby roll under my palm. No one except my boyfriend seemed to notice that movement. I am not moving in with you, I said clearly. My voice shook, but the sentence stayed solid all the way through. I will keep every medical appointment, I will follow provider instructions. I took a breath and added the part no one wanted. But where I sleep and who I live with is not negotiable. My sister blinked at me like I had suddenly changed languages. This is not about controlling you, this is about protecting the baby. Her hand fluttered over her chest like she was the fragile one. You used to understand that we are on the same side. The way she stressed used to landed harder than any insult. My boyfriend shifted his weight near the door, boots scraping softly. This is exactly about controlling her, he cut in, eyes sharp. You are trying to dictate her address, her support system, even visitors. He leaned against the wall, but his jaw stayed clenched hard. That does not sound like protection, it sounds like confinement. The lawyer refocused us before that turned into another screaming match. Let us focus on what is realistic at this stage, he suggested. He turned to me, not anyone else, which I appreciated. What do you require from them to continue feeling okay proceeding? The word continue hung there like a reminder that I had options. I stared at the polished table, then forced myself to look up. I need my home left alone, I started, heart pounding fast. No more pressure to relocate, no surprise visits, no guilt trips. I counted points on my fingers so I would not ramble. I also need my partner respected as my main support person. My sister scoffed softly, pushing her chair back an inch. So he gets the front row while we watch our baby from outside. Her husband shifted beside her but kept his eyes on his notes. This is our child, not some distant relative passing through. She curled her hands into fists on the table edge. The lawyer turned to her like he was handling a volatile client. You will be the legal parents at birth, that is clear. However, until that moment, her medical decisions and comfort come first. He paused, letting that land before continuing with steady emphasis. You do not get to override her choices about labor support. My dad finally spoke up, voice gravelly and tired. She is still your sister, not a rental service, he reminded her. She has given more than anyone should ever be asked to give. He looked at me then, guilt written all over his face. We need to finish this without breaking her in the process. My mom dabbed under her eyes but nodded in agreement. We can help with rides, food, whatever, without policing her apartment. She looked toward my boyfriend, meeting his gaze for the first time. You have been there during the worst nights, we know that. Her voice softened on that last part, and my throat tightened. My sister stared at all of them like they had betrayed her. So you all think I am the problem for wanting safety? Tears spilled down her cheeks, not delicate, just messy and hot. You will forgive him for disrespecting us, but not me for worrying. She looked at me like I held the final vote, which sucked. I knew if I sided with her fully, he would be gone. I knew if I backed him entirely, she might never forgive me. I also knew the baby inside me did not need this circus. I am not picking a hero, I said, voice raw. I am picking boundaries so I can get through delivery alive. The lawyer cleared his throat and started summarizing possible compromises. We agreed on scheduled check-ins instead of unlimited access every day. We confirmed I would share major updates through one group thread only. We set that my boyfriend would be in the delivery room with me. My sister sat rigid, agreeing with clipped nods that sounded like slammed doors. When we walked out, the hallway felt colder than the office. My sister marched ahead without looking back at us once. Her husband slowed near the elevator and turned toward me briefly. I know this is rough, thank you for still doing it. Then he followed her, leaving us alone with the echo. In the car, my boyfriend gripped the steering wheel and exhaled. I thought she might actually try to yank the whole agreement, he admitted. He glanced at me, searching my face for some sign of regret. You still want to keep going after that, honestly. The word honestly dug under my skin because I was not sure. I rested both hands on my stomach and waited for movement. There it was, a slow roll that always hit the same spot. I cannot imagine backing out this late, I answered quietly. She has a crib and clothes and names picked out already. Even saying that, I wondered when I started prioritizing her preparation. He nodded but did not look convinced in any real way. Then we do it with your rules, not hers from now on. He reached across the console and squeezed my knee gently. If she crosses those new lines, I want consequences this time. His eyes held mine until I looked away first. The consequence turned out to be distance, not another explosion. After that meeting, my sister barely called, just quick factual texts. Appointment at 10 Tuesday. Doctor wants another scan next week. No emojis, no extra questions about how I was holding up. Our group thread turned into a bulletin board instead of a conversation. My mom responded with hearts and thumbs up and hopeful phrases. My dad sent short confirmations about rides and work scheduling. My sister just dropped information and disappeared again. That silence weirdly hurt more than all the shouting before. At first, I told myself the quiet was good for me. Less pressure, fewer arguments, more time to nap or breathe. But late at night, I kept opening her messages to reread them. I would stare at the blunt sentences and feel this hollow ache. We were in this together, boo. T also strangely on opposite planets. One afternoon, I had a sharp cramp that made me gasp. I doubled over near the couch, gripping the arm and breathing hard. For a few seconds, panic swallowed every rational thought in my head. He rushed over, hand on my back, eyes wide and alarmed. Hospital now, no debating, he said, already reaching for the keys. On the way there, I stared at my phone with sweaty palms. I typed out a quick message to the group about the pain. By the time we pulled into the parking lot, replies popped up. My mom wrote, "We are on our way, keep us posted." My sister wrote, "Is he with you? Let us know what doctors say." That little "is he with you" made my stomach flip again. Even here, she needed to track his presence like a threat. Inside triage, monitors beeped, nurses moved quickly around us. They checked everything, listened, watched, asked the right questions. In the end, it was just preterm contractions that calmed with rest. When the nurse said I could go home if careful, I exhaled. My boyfriend squeezed my hand and kissed my forehead gently. "You scared me more than any family drama," he whispered. The baby rolled under the monitor strap like nothing had happened. For once, all the noise around us faded into background static. My parents arrived with worried faces and tight embraces. My sister walked in behind them, cheeks flushed, eyes darting everywhere. She went straight to the monitor printout and the nurse's notes. "What exactly triggered this? Did they mention your activity level?" she asked. Her gaze flicked to my boyfriend standing near the wall. The nurse answered in calm professional tones about common late pregnancy issues. Stress can contribute, overexertion can contribute, sometimes these happen anyway. My sister latched onto the first part like a life raft. "Stress," she repeated, looking straight at him again. I felt the next blame wave building before she even opened her mouth. "This would not have happened if you had listened earlier." Her voice stayed low, but the accusation was razor sharp. "We begged you to create a calmer environment and you refused." She stepped closer to the bed, towering over me without meaning to. "You keep her in constant conflict, and now the baby is responding." He straightened up, shoulders squaring, hands sliding into his pockets. "You really think I caused her uterus to contract?" he asked. He sounded tired more than outraged, which somehow cut deeper. "I drove her here, I sat through every check, I waited." He looked at me then, waiting to see if I would defend him. This was the moment I am ashamed of, to be honest. My instinct was to dodge, deflect, smooth things over again. Instead, something inside me finally snapped under all the weight. "Enough, both of you," I said louder than I meant to. The nurse actually paused mid-step and glanced back at us. I pushed myself up slowly, ignoring the tug in my abdomen. "I am not a bridge for you to fight across anymore." My throat burned, but the words came out clearer than before. "If I stay here tonight, it is because doctors said so. Not because anyone won a power struggle over my body." My sister stared like I had slapped her across the face. You cannot mean that after everything we went through together. Her voice cracked raw, a mix of grief and outrage. You would not even be pregnant if not for us trying. She clutched the bed rail, knuckles white, eyes wet and angry. You also called me a thing at dinner, I reminded her. The room went quiet enough that I heard my own heartbeat. You wrote clauses about where I sleep like I am equipment. And now you are blaming my contractions on my relationship. My words shook, but I did not take any of them back. My parents looked between us, both clearly torn and miserable. My boyfriend stayed still, jaw clenched, eyes bright with unshed tears. He was giving me space to handle this myself for once. The nurse cleared her throat and asked everyone to lower voices. Even that small intervention reminded me this was my chart. If you want this baby to arrive safely, you need me. I took a breath and let that land heavy and real. If you want any relationship with me afterward, you need respect. Right now, I am not feeling much of either from you. Saying it out loud felt like stepping off a cliff without a rope. My sister dropped her hand from the rail and wiped her face. Maybe when he is not around, we can talk like before. She backed toward the door, eyes glued to my boyfriend's shadow. I cannot do this with him in the picture, not like this. Then she turned and walked out, not waiting for anyone to follow. My mom hesitated, clearly torn between 2 hallways and 2 children. I will go check on her, make sure she gets home, she murmured. She touched my foot through the blanket, quick and almost apologetic. We love you, both of you, more than we are showing right now. W. She left with my dad, the door closing with a soft click. When it was just the 2 of us, the room felt bigger. He dragged the chair closer and dropped into it with a sigh. I am sorry she keeps making you choose like this, he whispered. He covered his face for a second, then lowered his hands. I keep wondering if staying is making your life worse, not better. I reached for his fingers and laced them with mine. Leaving would not magically make her kind, I told him. She would just find a different target and a different excuse. The monitor ticked softly beside us, steady and reassuring for once. For what it is worth, you are the only one asking how I feel. We were discharged later with strict instructions and a stack of papers. At home, the apartment felt strangely quiet, but not empty. He brewed tea, fussed with pillows, hovered without smothering. My phone stayed on the table, screen down, buzzing occasionally. I did not rush to grab it, which was new for me. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, my sister and I have spoken only through logistics. She sends money for maternity supplies, I send ultrasound screenshots. No nicknames, no future plans, just medical updates like weather reports. It feels like we are business partners managing a project and nothing more. My parents try to play messenger, but I keep shutting that down. I tell them they can love us both without carrying opinions between. Sometimes I hear my sister crying in the background during calls. Sometimes my mom slips and says when the baby comes home to us. Every time my stomach twists and my chest tightens all over again. At night when the house is quiet, I put my hands on my belly. The baby pushes back sometimes, like answering a silent question. I have to remind myself over and over what the plan is. I will deliver, they will take the child home, I will recover. It sounds simple laid out like that, but my heart does not agree. I do not want to keep her baby, I really do not. I also did not expect to feel this attached to tiny kicks. Or this gutted at the thought of handing the baby over. Or this angry that the person who begged for this barely speaks to me. I feel used and guilty at the same time, which is a fun mix. So here I am, lying on the couch with heartburn and swollen feet. My boyfriend is in the kitchen, humming off key on purpose. My phone is beside me, full of messages I am avoiding. I am still following the contract, still taking vitamins, still showing up. I am doing everything right on paper, but I feel like the villain. That is why I am typing this out for strangers now. Because my family sees me as a traitor or a tool, nothing between. My sister says I chose my partner over our child, exact words. He thinks I finally chose myself after months of letting them run me. I am pregnant, half estranged, stuck in the middle, and I honestly do not know if I failed.